I want to share a poem from someone in the care group, the Care and Grace group. No matter where I go, there I am. New program, old program, there I am. Listening with my head, listening with my heart. Living in the past, living in the present. Here I am becoming in Him. I am starting here where I am again and again. I am becoming aware, alive, accepting me where I am, except when I'm not. And there I am starting again. Now I have choices here where I am. I can choose to stay, or I can choose to be becoming in Him where I am. So I choose to be me becoming in Him, right here where I am starting again. That is so cool. That captures care, that captures caring grace, that captures my belief in the change process. I'm always a new program. That's what we call, as a Christian, it'd be like being in my new nature. I'm always a new program. I wrote the books. There's all these CDs and theories that I've developed. I'm always a new program, except when I'm not. And that's what Paul was saying 2,000 years ago. I am not my mistakes. That's not who I am. It's what I'm doing. When I'm having a tantrum, which is much less often than it used to be. Right, Sonia? Yeah. There's a right answer to that. When I'm flat in the mud, it's not who I am, people. It's where I am. It's how I'm feeling, not who I am. We need to understand that our identity does not change. Our identity is becoming. Now, although Christ is fully formed in us when we receive Him, that was the point I was getting at. The theological distinction. It did come, just out of order. See, He's merciful. Okay? It'd be nice if He'd given it to me the first time, but the fact is, believing it is a lifetime process for most of us. The becoming is believing the truth of who we are. Believing the preciousness that we are in His eyes. That's the becoming. This is my dad at age 8. I got a scanner. I bought a scanner when I started writing the bus book so I could have 2 pictures in that book. One was a picture of 6-year-old Jimmy. That's me. And the other was a picture of my dad at age 8. His life was more traumatic than most people would ever go through. That's said in my office. His mother died when he was 4. He was raised in the Ozarks of Arkansas before the social service system was in place. He'd be handed from farmer to farmer as kind of a work animal. He wet the bed every day. He'd get beaten most days for wetting the bed. When once in a while he would be with his dad, he loved that because the beating stopped. But then there was total poverty. They'd be sitting there with potato soup, which is not what you think of as potato soup. It's like a little bit of potato in water. And I said, well, Dad, what's it like? And he said, he was talking about one time when he was a kid, and he was hungry. He was hungry, and it was cold. And he said, boy, I wish there was more. But there's no bitterness. There's no bitterness. What my dad taught me was a profound gift. And that was expectations, not experiences, create resentment and bitterness. Expectations, not experiences, create resentment and bitterness. Now, he was messed up. He had little rigid compartments. He was not mentally, emotionally a healthy guy. Although he was much older than my mother, she was his mommy. And he'd call her, "Mother, Mother, these kids are putting me on the spot, Mother!" And he'd just scream if I'd ask him something like, "Hey, can I go to the show?" "Don't put me on the spot!" He's 4 years old. Now, I didn't know about his background until I was in my 40s. When I realized what his background was, he didn't do a bad job. Didn't do a good job. But considering what he had to work with, didn't do a bad job. Why should I resent him for not knowing how to do it? My mom, on the other hand, we can all turn and look at her. She's there. That's my mommy. I love her. My mother had the capacity to give us kids, myself, my sister and brother, grace. True, unconditional acceptance. My mom believed I could do anything. Even though I was flunking out of elementary school, even though I wasn't even supposed to go to college, she had absolute faith that I could do anything I put my mind to. She couldn't give that to herself, but she could give it to us kids. Later, she got into recovery, and her and Velmer, who's really a dad to me. Just a wonderful, wonderful man. They do caring grace and care up the hill sometimes whenever the weather permits and her health permits. But the fact is, we are not our story. And our story affects where we're starting today. Hear that distinction. I am not the kid that flunked out of school, elementary and on. And those experiences affected how I perceive the world today. We have a self-image. At the core, who do I believe myself to be? Am I a gangbanger? Am I stupid? Am I whatever? Negative things you might see yourself to be. And when you move outside of that self-image, out of that comfort zone, that space on either side of the set point, tension begins to develop. If I think I'm stupid and I get too stupid, I start getting smarter. If I start having too many successes, I will sabotage it because it's not how I see myself. Our self-image thermostat can change if we allow ourselves to change it. We use a split screen. Every time I make a success, something moving in the direction I want to accomplish, I move the setting. I see myself on the left side, an old program. On the right side, new program. I keep moving the setting. If not, as you make success in your recovery, you will be drawn back by addiction to the familiar. It's a powerful force that underlies all other addictions. Addiction to the familiar. Again, there's a nugget on that in the bus book that explains that in more detail. And the truth is that no matter what, you will be affected by your self-image thermostat. You can change it if you want. It's not that hard to do if you allow yourself to do it. God's plan is not hard, but it does require something that most people aren't willing to do, and that is to live consciously. To live consciously in the present and not be suffering from identity Alzheimer's. Identity Alzheimer's is a spiritual disease that I overlooked earlier in my notes, and I will talk about it for a moment right now. You all know the medical disease Alzheimer's. It's one of the most horrible diseases I could imagine, particularly for the loved ones. Until it's fully formed, it's horrible for the person themselves. Once they get past a certain point, it's not so horrible for them, but it is horrible for the people that love them. Identity Alzheimer's is when a Christian forgets that they are a new creation and believe they are their old nature. Take a moment, take a deep breath. When you think about who you truly believe yourself to be, do you believe yourself to be a new creation becoming? Or do you believe yourself to be your old nature? Those qualities, habits, characteristics that are coming from your old nature. Most Christians, if they're honest, are seeing themselves based on their old nature. I call it identity Alzheimer's. Another poem by Roberta from Caring Grace, My Identity. Allow me to see myself and others through your eyes and respond to what I see in your nature. O Lord, as I have prayed that these last few years, I sense that you are answering that prayer. I catch glimpses of myself as one held very dear in your eyes, and I am amazed by your grace. I am who you see. I can let go of the old self and see accurately, though imperfectly, the real me. The past, the pain, the perfectionism, depression are not who I am. By your grace, I am learning to see my true identity as new creation in Christ. And as I learn to see others more accurately, I can let go of expectations and allow your grace to flow through me to them. Little by little, this is coming to pass. I am so grateful, Lord, as I find my home in you. I thank you that I am a part of your family. Wow. Wow. That is truth, guys. That is truth. Powerful, powerful truth. That's why Paul, the most learned man of the day, said, all I know is Christ and him crucified. All I know. This is the man that was the most knowledgeable in the world at that time. And all I know is Christ and him crucified. James said, and James 1:22. I love James. James is my kind of guy. I love Paul too, except Paul and I are very, very... Paul doesn't have any trouble judging. I do. So, he calls it, that soccer ball's out. Paul have no trouble calling the soccer ball out, okay? Me, well, it's kind of close to the line. I don't know. I'm more like, is it Bartholomew? The other, that's another talk. James 1:22, and remember, it is a message to obey, not just to listen to. So don't fool yourselves, for if a person just listens and doesn't obey, he is like a man looking at his face in the mirror. As soon as he walks away, he cannot see himself anymore or remember what he looks like. But if anyone keeps looking steadily into God's law for free men, he will not only remember it, but he will do what it says, and God will greatly bless him in everything he does. James came up with identity Alzheimer's before I did. Who would have thunk? He took his name from me, and then he took his idea from me. What are you going to do, huh? What are you going to do?